Good morning. 7:30 in the morning. I've been up since 5:30 when the sun was just breaking over the horizon. Heading out to Chorus for a coffee with Doug Green and the gang. And we just wanted to talk about something. It's kind of roughly got to do with this idea that this time things will be different. This applies to markets, economics. It applies to cultural trends. It applies to a lot of stuff. And in large part, I'm inspired to talk about it because of a few conversations I had lately. So I'll explain it to you, and I'll explain to you what my philosophy is on what ought to be done in regards to this idea. So the idea is that, shit's hitting the fan, right? Politically, culturally, and all that stuff. And you can get obsessed with it, you can hang on to it, and you can get nihilistic, depressed, and down about the whole thing. Fact of the matter is, there's always a lot of ugliness that goes on, always. And the whole thing is to not get wrapped up into it and not sort of absorb it into your consciousness to the sense where, this is just the way things are, or to believe that this time is different. No, nothing's really different. There's nothing different. If you look at trends throughout history, cultures change, economics, all of it, you can predict it throughout history. So, the idea is, this is my personal philosophy. The idea is to work on yourself, learn to be autonomous and sovereign, and be the best version of yourself. Do what you need to do for your health, your family, and your life mission. It's easy to say or to sort of like whine, complain, and blame and say, oh, that's just the way things are. I can't do that, or whatever it is. That's weak. That's low resolution. That's not going to get you anywhere in life. So my advice to you, and especially to the younger generation, is to don't get nihilistic, and certainly don't buy into any major ideologies, especially ideologies that involve victimhood. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So let me just give you another take on this, another angle. The lights are talking to me. So I read a book. I love history. Love reading history. My arm's getting sore. I love reading. I'm reading a book right now on the settling of the American continent in the 1800s with the Apaches, the Comanches, and all the frontiers settlers and that. Man, it's intense. Whoa. And the new movie that just came out by Kevin Costner called Frontier exemplifies that. It's a really good movie, by the way. But if you don't like history too much, or, it's not pure entertainment. It's almost like a documentary. Anyways, so let me just say this. There's a book that came out by Oliver Stone called The Untold Truth of the History of the United States of America. Now, this book, I read it. It came out about 8 years ago. This book was intense. Basically, it's a good read. I've never read a book more footnoted than this book. He co-wrote it with what appeared to be an academic. So everything he was stating in the book, he backed it up with, he made a footnote and made a reference to where he got it from. So he wasn't just making stuff up and saying, oh, this could happen, this did happen, we think this happened. It wasn't anecdotal or hyperbole. It was backed up. So you could tell that Oliver Stone, you all know Oliver Stone, all his movies, he's deep into those kinds of topics where, he likes to, in his opinion, call BS where BS ought to be called. I'm going to try hard not to get run over here. cars. Ah! I'm good. What a beautiful morning. It's going to be a nice day today. So yeah, that book, The Untold History of the United States of America, was fascinating. I read the whole thing. I breezed through it. It's the kind of book I like reading. But then when I was done reading it, I got depressed. I was like, ugh. Like, because it reveals through his research and compilation of all these events sort of the ugly side of what goes on in a lot of events. So there's always a backstory, you know? It's quite possible, like for example, I don't know if this was in the book, but it probably is, I can't remember now. It's quite possible, as example, that JFK was assassinated. It was a conspiracy between the CIA with the help of the mafia and a bunch of others to take him out because they wanted to, they didn't want him involved in stopping the Vietnam War and all that stuff. You know, that's quite possible. Of all the conspiracies that are out there, that's the one that I think is quite possible that there's some accuracy to it. My point being that he talks about this stuff or similar. I'm using that as an example. And he brings up these historical facts, the story behind the story with a lot of events in history. And it's like, okay, sure, that happened. But then I'm like, okay, why do I want to dwell on that? Who cares? And I tell this to younger generations. I always tell them, say, look, there's always a lot of ugliness that goes on. Nothing's different. When I was growing up, it was the Cold War, the Vietnam War. When my parents were growing up, it was the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War. Massive upheaval is constant, very, very constant. So the solution is to be disciplined, centered, focused, health, family, mission. Just take life one day at a time. Be focused. Be the best version of yourself, and don't worry about these events. Just accept them. They are what they are. They're there. I'm not going to read any more books like I did read about from Oliver Stone. For that reason, I decided that after I read that book, I decided that it was a little too dark and it just bred too much nihilism in me. So I thought, you know what? I mean, I'm reading this other book on the settling of the frontier, which is probably way darker in many ways. But for some reason, it's different. I don't know what it is. Oliver Stone, he tends to get, oh man, look at this. Look at how ugly this is. And I don't know. So I hope you get my point. Anyways, I'm here. I'm at Cora's. It's beautiful New Sudbury. All right, it's time for coffee.